The first matter is actually here in New York. It is item 1546B, Spades Lounge NYC LLC. It's a request from counsel's office for an emergency summary order of suspension.
Good morning, members.
Good morning. Good morning.
Spades Lounge is located at 3392 Boston Road in the Bronx, which eventually becomes Boston Post Road as you go further upstate. The licensing board granted this license on May 2nd of 2018. Counsel's office is here requesting that you suspend this license on an emergency basis for 3 reasons. This licensee hires men who are unvetted, some of whom have violent pasts, to manhandle the patrons of this club and act as security guards. A patron nearly bled to death as a direct result of those actions. And in addition, this licensee is a drain on police resources. Special Operations Lieutenant Kaiser, who counsel's office is familiar with, as is his ordinary practice, undertook a campaign of engagement with this licensee when they were initially about to open. The lieutenant met with the owner, Damian Gregory, another fellow named Brian Barnett, and a female who said was a relative of one of the two, several times. The lieutenant gave them advice as to how to best supervise the premise. He took pains to give them advice. He told them they should be sure that they have a video surveillance system that records and to maintain the videos. He told them he stressed the importance of hiring a licensed security guard and having a contract with a licensed security guard company. He stressed that they needed to keep a log of all the security guards' licenses to make sure that he kept control of the crowds. So the premises finally began to open on a regular basis in about June, the lieutenant reported. And at that time, the lieutenant started noticing changes in the front of the licensed premise. There were problems with crowds hanging out in front. There were changes in traffic. There were double and triple parked cars, and the crowds were rowdy. The lieutenant started assigning directed patrols to be posted there every weekend. This month, on July 7th, things got much worse. In the morning of July 7th, at about 3:30 in the morning, there was a report of a shooting that occurred about a block from the licensed premise. The police got word that the shooting was related to an earlier dispute that had occurred at the licensed premise. As a result, the lieutenant personally, along with other officers, inspected the premise at about 3:30 in the morning. While they were inspecting the premise, they had to stop their inspection because there was a crowd of approximately 100 patrons directly in front of the premise fighting. It was the lieutenant's expert opinion that this mass fight that was occurring out in front of the premise was related to the earlier shooting that was reported. The lieutenant had to call 8 additional police cars to control this crowd. The lieutenant continued with his inspection, and they found violations, and they issued summonses that are referenced in the memo that we've submitted. Some of the violations including not keeping books and records, the visibility was obstructed, pregnancy signs were not posted, no certificate of occupancy was posted. Unfortunately, the problems didn't end on July 7th. The very next day, July 8th at 3:30 in the morning, there was a directed patrol once again posted in front of the licensed premise. The 2 patrol officers noticed there was a commotion at about 3:30 in the morning. They went in and they saw a man on the ground bleeding. An off-duty fireman was actually attending to the man who was bleeding from the leg. It was learned through the police investigation that there had been a promoted party at the licensed premise and that the victim did not want to pay the cover charge. This led to a dispute between the victim and several security guards. One security guard intentionally used a penknife one time to stab the patron in the femoral artery, while the second security guard punched the patron. The security guard that punched the victim has a felony conviction as laid out in a memorandum of law. Both security guards were unlicensed, and there were other witnesses who saw the incident. When the police attempted to investigate this incident at the scene, Nobody from the licensed premise came forward to identify who the perpetrators were. The licensed premise did not call 911. It was lucky for them that the Director Patrol RMP was there. And it was only when some independent witnesses, some patrons, finally came forward, and it took them some time to have the courage to come forward and point out the two unlicensed security guards who committed this crime. So the two unlicensed security guards were taken and they were arrested. The victim was listed as likely to die because of the level of blood loss he had sustained. Had it not been for this off-duty fireman who happened to be there at the club, it's very likely that the victim would have died at the scene.
Did he recover?
Yes,
But he was uncooperative, if I read right.
yes, eventually he was uncooperative, yes. So after this incident, the police did a follow-up inspection, and they found two additional unlicensed security guards. And as it turns out, one of those unlicensed security guards was a man by the name of Stanley Bell, and Stanley Bell was the person that the licensee designated as the recruiter of the other security guards. So Stanley Bell was interviewed by the detectives, as you see there, and he was working with the two perpetrators who were arrested, who were also unlicensed, along with two other security guards named Parker and Clark, and they were all unlicensed. So we had 5 confirmed unlicensed security guards working on July the 8th. In addition to these obvious egregious lapses that the licensee has committed, the licensee is also systematically violating its method of operation by operating as a nightclub. It's licensed as a restaurant, it's permitted to use DJs and recorded music, but it permits dancing on a wide-scale basis.
Any promoters? Was it licensed
Yes.
for promoters? It was licensed for promoters.
I don't have the complete method of operation, Commissioner.
All right.
We're waiting for that, but at the very least, they're not permitted to have dancing. Lieutenant Kaiser advises us that this licensee is a drain on the resources. I just think these actions are so egregious that they've made perfectly clear that they do not care about protecting the public. So for these reasons, we're requesting that you summarily suspend this license.
Do you know if this was approved here or?
I
Through the
believe
licensing board.
it was a
It was the
licensing board.
Okay.
And there is no promoters.
Oh, and they're not allowed
They
promoters?
indicated no promoters.
Okay. And they were open, you say, about a month?
Yeah, they were open, the lieutenant said they really started opening around June, so it was about a month when all these things started happening.
Nice.
Were they authorized to have security guards?
Yes.
Okay. What licensed ones?
Obviously, right? Ones without,
All right.
violent histories.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm going to vote to summarily suspend. It's obvious that they basically have ignored whatever obligations the law requires them to follow, and they don't see, at least their security guards don't seem too concerned about the health, safety, or welfare of the customers, and the drain on police resources is obviously another negative aspect for that community. So I'm going to vote to summarily suspend.
I vote the same way. Very disappointing set of facts for this place's young history, so clearly a threat to public safety.
And I'm going to vote to suspend as well. They're obviously a drain on police resources. They obviously, Baldface lied to us about how they planned on operating such a business. So especially like only being open, literally a couple of weeks. Yeah. Suspended.
Thank you.
Thank you.